So I attempted my first Pokemon Nuzlocke. If you don't know what a Nuzlocke is, it adds a significant amount of challenge to your standard Pokemon game by implementing a few rules that I'll get into in a second. I've tried Nuzlockes in the past, but they were often ones I didn't finish due to time, but then I had an epiphany. They say to play the game that is most familiar to you for your first run, and considering I spent several hours of my life over the course of 3 months making a now outdated walkthrough, I thought a Pokemon Insurgence run would only be fitting. And as an added bonus, it keeps me in line by implementing its own Nuzlocke mode. The rules to the run are simple. I must catch the first encounter to every area of the game. If one of my Pokemon faints, it is considered dead and unusable. Losing all my Pokemon in battle results in a loss and I have to start the game over again. I won't be playing with X items because they're so broken, especially with the upgraded variants this game adds, but I will be using potions in battle. I have to play on set mode, meaning I have no time in between enemy Pokemon fainting. And finally, I'll be playing on normal difficulty. I could play on hard mode, but personally, I don't really like the idea of going toe-to-toe with a competitively viable team in the first gym. What the hell is this? In addition, I'll be implementing a mulligan rule where I can reset to a previous save state once throughout the entire run. Insurgence is a really hard game to Nuzlocke, and you never really know what's going to happen out there. Now, with all that out of the way, my name is Matt, I'm a Pokemon Insurgence fanatic, and this is my story. I start my adventure like any other, by setting my controls, selecting the Nuzlocke option, and mindlessly mashing the A button while trying to get out of the introduction. But rather than starting out in the lush comfort of my home, I start out in a prison. No food, no water, no sustenance, just a single bed in the middle of the room. After Mew comes and breaks me out, I grab the DNA of a cultist that was previously sacrificed and infiltrate the rest of the base. And by infiltrate, I mean backtrack and grab all the items in each of the other cells. To say that I'd need them would be a massive understatement. I witness a ritual being done in order to summon Darkrai that goes horribly awry and decide to make my escape. After booking it through the magic forest, I end up in Talonflame town where I'm given a magical instrument that I can't play, and Mew leaves me to my own devices. A little albino boy approaches me and fawns over the thought of seeing Mew.
I think someone's got a crush, but I digress.
He drags me by the ear and introduces me to his parents that are so poorly written, they look like they got ripped straight out of a 13-year-old's fanfic account.
I love how Damien's dad's only priority is oh my god, you're embarrassing us. That's literally his character the entire time. It's oh my god, you're embarrassing us in front of the boy.
I am yet again dragged by the ear to Professor Sylvan's laboratory where I am greeted by her and a stranger having a nice chat about Pokemon that the man had just found on the side of the road or something. I really don't know because I wasn't paying attention. He sets 3 Pokeballs on the table in front of the albino boy and myself, leaves, and I engage in the most mindless button mash of my entire life. The dialogue stops and I am able to pick my starter. After a bit of thought, I decide to go with a Delta Charmander I named Chakra, a ghost dragon type that has a little face on its flame. A good representation of all the tormented souls that will haunt me while I try to progress through this absolute nightmare. Look at that face. It doesn't look too intimidating, does it?
Right? Wrong!
For you see, Pokemon Insurgence is not your standard walk in the park like Fire Red or Leaf Green. Not your relaxing trip to the ice cream stand like X or Y. No. Pokemon Insurgence is quite literally a roller coaster that's on fire in hell. Pokemon Insurgence is a game that has many boss fights in between each of its 8 gyms. Between the rivals and countless cults that plague the region, it constitutes a horrific experience that requires only the most precise plans of action for every single battle. And it doesn't help that every other battle for the first stage of progression is also horrific, but we'll be seeing why shortly. I defeat the little albino boy in single combat, being lucky enough to not have to tank one of his Delta Squirtle's pursuits. After receiving my Pokedex and a handful of Pokeballs and potions, I head off back into the Magic Forest for my first encounter. I take one step into the grass before coming across a Ghastly that I name Go-Ball. I have a relatively easy time getting through the forest trainers because of the team's collective ghost typing, but that's about where the upsides end. For you see, I'm thinking ahead to the first major boss of the game, a member of the Abyssal Cult, and she possesses a Skrelp. Not a terribly powerful Pokemon, but one that has the move Feint Attack, a base 60 powered Dark-type move that could result in a brutal wipe in a mere matter of seconds, and it really did not help that my next encounter was guaranteed to have some sort of water weakness, so, in short, I was absolutely f***ed if I did not come up with some sort of strategy. Luckily, with a bit of grinding and an Onyx called Enclave from the nearby cave, I had a plan. Albino Boy and I witness the cultist speaking of the Augur's demise, and he decides that I need to do something about it, and drags me by the ear back to town. After a bit of dialogue, I engage in the hardest fight of the game. I put Skrelp to sleep with Go-Ball's hypnosis and curse to whittle his health down. It wakes up, and I am subjected to the first of many tragedies. Skrelp uses the sacred move and sends Go-Ball to an indescribably painful hell. Enclave comes out and tries to stall with Sturdy, but is eventually sent to the same fate by Skrelp's 4x super effective water gun. Luckily, it was enough for Chakra to come in and finish off with Skrelp and Horsey. Go-Ball and Enclave did not die in vain, for I promised that I would keep moving for them. I exit the cave and was greeted with Route 1, a prime place for a new encounter. I took one step in the grass and came across a Blitzel which I named Blitzkrieg, and with a bit of grinding I was able to defeat all the trainers on the route and catch 2 more Pokemon, a Zubat named Zulu in the nearby cave and an Execute named Ego in the hidden grotto. I make it to Midna Town relatively unscathed and decide to absolutely ransack the poor village until there's nothing left, giving me a leftovers, Firestone, and several potions and Great Balls. I head into the local mine to catch my next encounter, a disappointment which I name Mid because it was absolutely the most mid thing on this team. After clearing the mine, I come across the stupidest character in the game trying to resurrect fossils while anyone could just enter at any time. After more dialogue, I steal the fossils for some potential cash in the future and escape with a rope before any more mid-Pokemon come to explain how they're actually viable. I enter the trainer school and engage in a tournament, a brutal slaughter that will result in a long therapeutic process. It was easy. Next area. Route 2 gave me a Buizel that swiftly met its end to an overly buffed Pignite. I thought I'd be able to grab some free cash and XP for my Charmeleon, but little did I know that this stupid f***ing Fire Pig carried Foresight, a move that let normal and fighting attacks connect my Ghost type. Whilst in the middle of it all, my starter fell to an incredibly impressive 1 HP. I ended up having to sacrifice Mid in the process, and that brought the death count up to 4. Admittedly, I was extremely discouraged and thought that maybe this wasn't the run, but then I remembered my vow. It was for Go-Ball and Enclave, and now for my Buizel. And Mid, I guess. I sweep the Abyssal Cultist fight, narrowly escaping Blitz's death to a crab, and catch Magi the Magikarp with the Old Rod outside of the ancient ruins. I enter the Cyan Cavern, jeez, there are a lot of caves in the early game, and catch Maggie the Magnemite, an absolute unit with some outstanding moves and an amazing nature. After a tough battle against the gentleman where my big brain was expanded by pivoting between 2 immunities in Chakra and Zulu, I make it to Suntouch City and am given a Machop I name Bruce as my encounter. After a bit of grinding, I feel that I'm ready for the first gym of the game. I enter the gym and absolutely destroy it with no difficulty and make it up to the gym leader, the Soy Boy. Here's my plan.
So my plan is we're gonna lead with Magi against his Vulpix. We're gonna Dragon Rage and Bite. I think that should be enough to kill it. And then I should imagine his Ivysaur is gonna come out and start Solar Beaming, right? We pivot into Zulu for that 4 times resistance. That's sweet resistance. Ivysaur doesn't have a single move that can neutrally hit Zulu. Take it out with Wing Attack. In comes I'm assuming that's when Charmeleon would come back in, but I really don't know for sure. It could go either way. Between Deerling is his last Pokemon, and Charmeleon. It could go either way. I imagine Charmeleon would come in and start setting up Sunny Day. So that's when we switch back into Magi, Dragon Breath, and Bite. That'll probably be enough to take it out. And then Deerling, same process. How many potions I got? 6, 7, including the fresh water. I think we should be good to go. I do battle with him and wipe his Vulpix with no issue. Out comes Deerling and it's a lot of the same motions. I pivot a switch into Zulu after he lets out Ivysaur. In the sun, the move Solar Beam doesn't need to charge, so it could obliterate my newly acquired Gyarados. Zulu, however, is 4 times resistant to this absolute behemoth of a move and was able to take it out with a few wing attacks. Charmeleon comes out and I confuse it before switching back into Magi. The confusion comes in clutch while trying to whittle its health down, and with a single Dragon Rage, I take out the first gym leader.
I am awarded the first badge, and almost make my way out of the gym before the stupidest character of the game runs past and says that there was a lady who looked really distressed. I walk back in and engage in yet another button mashing session. This time, the Cult of Perfection is trying to get their hands on the rock so that they can use the rock to absolutely rock the world shit. I mash through the rest of the cutscene and am given the instant Lapras, a very efficient way to travel across the seas. I enter the broadcast tower and engage on a mission, catching a little Axew that I name Zizu, and then I get lucky as shit and get a callback just as I'm about to leave. I catch a little Delta Grimer I name Come. And with those encounters out of the way, I'm ready to move on. I kill my encounter at the exitway and catch a Sudowoodo on Route 3 that I name Woohoo. I really wanted a Ralter Curlier for Gym 3, but whatever, it's alright. I make my way to Mechi Town and do battle with the stupidest character in the game, defeating each of her Pokemon with one of my own. I then get access to the secret base, and let me tell you, this is absolutely massive. I fight trainers on Route 3 to grab a little cash, and lose Bruce in the process because I was playing extremely dumb. RIP Bruce, you will be missed. Anyways, back to secret bases. You can buy many different functions in the secret base, but most importantly you can purchase the level trainer. For a small fee you can battle 3 suicidal Audinos and train up whatever Pokemons you need for the next big battle. To say this is the most important mechanic I have access to would be a massive understatement. I have just made this Nuzlocke so much more bearable. With this newfound power, I train up the team before utterly ass-blasting the next route. I find a Furfru I named Furfru, but this actually scared the hell out of me. For you see, there was a collective 30% chance to encounter a fire type on this route between a Cyndaquil and Ponyta, but I ended up getting neither of those. Once again, I started to feel immensely nervous because I didn't have an answer to the upcoming gym, a bug and poison type gym. After making it to Vipik City, however, I got an amazing idea. On my team was one of the most amazing Pokemon you could get your hands on during a Nuzlocke, a Golbat, because it could evolve into Crobat when happy enough with you. After running around the block at least 20 times and doing some Audino training, my boy evolved into his final form. We get access to Acrobatics, an incredibly powerful move if you're not using an item, and sweep the gym trainers. After Maggie evolved into Magneton and the rest of the team got trained up, I take on the Pot Smoke. Here's my plan. Okay. The plan is simple. We lead Maggie, try and take out the Shuckle as fast as we can. It'll probably be a couple turns. You know, he'll probably get a Sticky Web up in that time, which is fine. But then after that, we'll probably come Heracross. We switch into Zulu, Acrobatics, all the way. It'll probably sweep his entire team. If I'm being totally honest, the only thing I'm kind of concerned about is if it doesn't outspeed Beedrill, we're in a bit of a predicament. But we should be totally fine. Tentacruel has paper thin defense. Haunter has paper thin defense and doesn't really have a good move. They don't have good moves to counter it, so we should be fine. We should just be able to do this with 2 Pokemon. I do battle with the Pot Smoker. He leads Shuckle, I lead Maggie, and with a few flash cannons it faints. Out comes Heracross, and I pivot into Zulu. What followed next was a brutal slaughter of all of his Pokemon, including a Mega Beedrill I wasn't sure if I was going to outspeed. But luckily for me, Zulu completely outsped and annihilated it with streamlined efficiency. I am awarded the second badge and am greeted with the realization that our dear friend the albino boy has been captured by the Abyssal Cult, and I have to go help him before I can progress. I run into the Vipik dump, grab a Stunky from the grass, and completely decimate the Abyssal Cult. With the help of Mew and Shaman, I saved the albino boy from falling into acid and am given the ability to use Seed Flare outside of battle as a reward for this absolute waste of time. I head south to catch a Fletchling in the Crossroads, east to catch a Croconaw named
Cracking eggs
on Route 5, and catch a Boldore named Oreo in the Samsura Cave before arriving in Coral Town. I grab a lucky egg off of a Loudred, and let me just say, this is an absolute W. With this, I am able to efficiently grind with the level trainer for far less money. After a small break because of a little illness, I redo the overlay and catch a few hidden grotto encounters. I was unlucky enough to grab a Delta Sunkern, a poison fire type with some of the worst stats I've ever seen on a Pokemon. But unfortunately, I really need him because he's the only fire type that can take care of the plethora of steel and grass types that lay ahead. I also catch a little Electrike that I unironically named Sparky, and with that, I continue my quest. After finding a shuckle by smashing rocks in town, which I name Shuck You, I head into the desert and catch Vibetrek the Vibrava. I grab the Flygonite and the Tyranitarite in the area, and I enter the cave that resides between the two halves of the desert where I find the albino boy. We do battle, and unfortunately I ended up losing the cum monster due to a critical hit. I beat his Luxray after much confusion and make my way to Roggen Town, where I mourn the loss of my fallen comrade and regroup the team so that I can make it to Helios City, but not before catching a female dugong that I named Fat Boy and a stoutland I named Puppers. I kill the encounter in the Helios sewers and make it up to the Black Market. Together, the albino boy and I storm the Perfection base that resides under the Jade Tower. I mash the A button through the cutscene and fight Taean, a member of the Perfection cult, and it is at this moment that I make the worst mistake of the entire run. While trying to show off the Delta Pokemon that I had acquired to someone in chat, I accidentally switched Chakra in right to a Kyurem's Ice Beam, killing him instantly. I defeat Taean with little difficulty other than my massive blunder, and for my victory I am rewarded the Mega Ring and the Delta Charizardite, an object that will allow my undead boy to go even further beyond. I head back into the main city to do some grinding, but it occurs to me that I literally have no money. So I buy the amulet coin and head off to fight the trainers on the previous routes, but whilst in the middle of minding my own business, beating the last trainer on Route 8, the unthinkable happens. I am devastated by the loss of Magi. He was the backbone of the team and led me to my first gym badge just a few short days ago. It was hard to believe that he was gone. I regroup at the Pokemon Center and spend a long time developing a plan with chat to decide what to do against the third gym leader, the Simp. The Simp is a major run killer if you don't have the right tools. Who knew dragon and flying types for a gym could be kinda scary? Since I don't have a single clip of me saying my plan, I will simply narrate it here. The plan is to lead with Maggie against the Simp Skarmory and ass blast it with Discharge before it can set up too many entry hazards. He will switch to a Pokemon that will kill Maggie, preferably his Gliscor, and I will use a combination of
Cracking eggs!
Oreo, and Fat Boy to beat out the rest of his team, including a very scary Kingdra and Mega Altaria. If only that were actually how it went. Things go just as planned at first, but then he switches into Kingdra, and it's a clean 2-hit KO. I decide to go for the kill before he switches into Noivern. I pivot into
Cracking eggs!
to tank the flamethrower and take out Noivern with an Ice Fang and Slash. The Simp switches into Altaria, which immediately kills
Cracking
with
eggs!
a Hyper Voice. R.I.P. Kraken Eggs. You will be missed. Out comes Blaze, hitting the Altaria hard with a Sludge Bomb and tanking a Dragon Pulse. I take the risk after Blaze gets knocked down to half health, but it didn't matter because the Simp switched back into Skarmory, setting up Stealth Rocks before it gets taken out with Blaze's Flamethrower. Out comes Gliscor and I switch into Fat Boy, realizing I can completely wall this absolute menace to society with Zulu, because its only attacking move just so happens to be Earthquake. After a little stalling, I take out the Gliscor and Poison Fang the Altaria, also taking it down. Last Pokemon is Talonflame, and I immediately switch into Oreo, expecting it to try clapping Zulu with a Flare Blitz or Brave Bird. Neither of these things happen though, because he instead goes for Swords Dance. I didn't know if I was going to live a boosted stab Brave Bird, but the unthinkable happens, and I am left victorious against the Simp. He is sacrificed to the blood gods, and we are to do battle with Jaren after yet another long-winded monologue. The battle with Jaren is incredibly strange. Regardless of difficulty, he only has one Pokemon, a level 50 Rayquaza, and luckily for me, on normal mode, it only carries Dragon Dance and Dragon Ascent, a setup move and a move that is 4 times resistant by Maggie. I paralyze the Rayquaza before slowly whittling its health down, eventually winning me the fight. After yet another cutscene that I really don't care about, I am gifted the 3rd badge, a useless TM, and the Will of the Simp. I mourn the loss of
Cracking eggs!
regroup the team for the next big fight, and move on to the next area. I head over to the Cave of Steam and catch a Marowak I name Crying Child, and do something I haven't done before, catch a Drudagon in the same area that I name Trade later, which you'll see why I do this in a second. I make my way through the cave before coming out in Utira Town. I trade my Axew away to a hiker in exchange for his Drillbur, marking my encounter for the area. I head up to the library to explore and am greeted by the albino boy and the stupidest character in the game, who were just about to leave. I am given a choice to battle either of them and decide to go with the albino boy because my current team is more set to take his than our green-haired foes. I take him out with little to no difficulty and enter the library. I do a bit of exploring before catching a Delta Badoo I name Blanky Mode and legit mashing through the longest dialogue done so far. I head east into the abandoned wing, battling the ghost trainers and collecting the items on the floor before making it to the furthest wing where the mysterious orb lays. The three of us kids and some totally not suspicious librarian named Zachary investigate, and it turns out that the orb is actually the Oracle of Delphox. I do battle with the Oracle, wiping his team with relative ease. We sit down and engage in yet another button mash as the Oracle tells us the prophecy. After more dialogue between the cast, I leave and head out to Miara Town, skipping the encounters of both Route 8 and the town temporarily. It's at this moment that I take some time to do a quick side quest involving traveling to an outpost, wiping out the burglars, and catching the boss, a Delta Axew. I witness the leader of the Abyssal cult, Audrey, steal a bell she had hid under a replica of the blue orb in order to summon Lugia in the surrounding island. I chase after her, catching another Magikarp I cleverly named Magi 2 and a Lairon named Big Bertha, and confront her in the lowest level of the caves. She summons Lugia and we do battle. Ego takes out her Lantern, Maggie takes out her Ludicolo, Ego takes out her Swampert, Maggie takes out Lugia, Puff the Altaria takes out her Mega Crawdons, and Maggie wipes out her Kingdra after a bit of stalling. I think we can all tell who the MVP of the fight was. I am rewarded with the Pokeflute for all my troubles, and I use it to wake up the sleeping Snorlax on Route 8. After a bit of whittling its health down, I catch it and name it Tubba Bubba. I press on to Route 9 and overhear a conversation between Jaren and Persephone. I press on to Route 9 and overhear a conversation between Jaren and Persephone, the leader of the cult of Darkrai. I catch a Loudred I name Bin after one of my viewers on Twitch and book it to Sonata City. I take the Drudigan I caught in the Cave of Steam and trade it to a fire breather for a Cyndaquil named Vulcan. I don't know how in-game trades work in Nuzlocke, but I count it as my encounter for Sonata City, so yeah. After a bit of preparation and training, I get a team ready for the 4th gym leader, the stepsister. She just so happens to also be a run killer if you're not prepared. Mega Miltank is one scary bitch, and you need to plan to play around its ability. I plow through the gym trainers and make my way up to her. Here's my plan of action. Plan is as follows. We lead Maggie against Chinchino. It's normal fairies. Try and take it out with as little difficulty as we can. We're gonna assume that she's gonna switch into Miltank with the Earthquake. We're gonna pivot Zulu if that happens. But if she switches anything else, we'll plan accordingly. But tentatively, we plan to pivot Zulu for the Earthquake and then pivot Mole Man. We pivot Mole Man for Rollout, just so we can not die. So we can not lose a Pokemon so easily. We take out that. Probably a Azumarill comes in next if we got Mole Man. It's probably going to go for a Water Moose. Pivot Ego and blast it with a Leaf Storm. Gardevoir or Togekiss will come in which either case we'll do Maggie. If it's Gardevoir, pray to God it doesn't use Destiny Bond, as we try and take it out. And Sylveon, we can bait out the HP Fire with Maggie or Ego, and switch into, or we can bait it out and switch into Tubba Bubba. So we should be fine. I'm nervous for this fight because it's a massive run killer. We do battle and things go mostly as planned. After taking out our Chinchino, I accidentally sacrifice Moleman the Dugtrio to the stepsister's Miltank. But other than that, it's a complete and utter slaughter. I am awarded the 4th gym badge in the best fairy type TM before the stupidest character in the game comes to inform the stepsister that the power to the nursing home has gone out. I would do that, but I've got more important things to do at the moment, such as training up Vulcan and Vin to their fullest potentials, spending several minutes of my life off stream smashing rocks to catch a Dwebble I named Hermitcraft, and to get 2 Old Ambers. For those who may not be aware, Old Ambers are a type of fossil that resurrects Aerodactyl, but the reason I spent over 20 minutes of smashing rocks to get 2 of them is because there's a side quest involving trading 1 for the Aerodactylite. Oh my god, let's go! After realizing that I can't just revive fossils at the Scientist Club and accidentally doing their quest where I catch an Archon I name Havoc I purchase a fossil maniac in my secret base and revive one of the old ambers into Aerodactyl, naming him Speed. I turn the other in to get the stone, and that's where I thought my off-stream endeavors were going to end, but unfortunately, that wasn't even close. I spent over an hour of my life grinding at the Sonata tracks just south of Sonata City. Basically, how it works is that you pick a Pokemon to race on one of 4 tracks. You're slower than your opponents, but they also have the collective IQ of a brick. So after finding the optimal route on the Rocky Roads map and legit winning it 50 times, I was able to get a Zebstrika with a Megastone on it and sponsor with Devantech, meaning that every time I won a race, I had a chance to get any from a list of Pokeballs as well as a flat 11 grand. So by the time that I was done, I had over 100 grand in my wallet.
Also, if anyone can set a record below 37 seconds, please let me know. I got it like 5 times, but I couldn't get anything any lower.
I pimped the fuck out of my character and followed the stepsister to her side hustle just north of town and ransack the poor, sick folk that reside in the home. We find Taya and Ryukura messing with the power of the building, demanding a deal to save the stepsister's father, Stepdaddy. After it goes a little too well, Stepdaddy becomes a literal abomination. He kidnaps the poor albino boy as he re-enters the room, and we are forced to progress instead of actually trying to track the mutant down. I find a small candle residing in a secret room behind the house and feed it a berry. It decides to join my team and I name it 420 Lit. I make my way to Kepler City, catching a Carnivine I name Carnival on Route 10, and a Chespin I named Chess Penis in the Hidden Grotto. I find the gym leader, the traitor, in the observatory, and as we come outside to go do battle, it starts pissing down rain. The traitor starts questioning what sort of mechanical abomination could have done this, and it's at that moment that Audrey reveals herself whilst riding on her Lugia. After a villainous monologue that I totally didn't mash through, I raid the base and cosplay as my favorite waifu before confronting the big bad boss. We do battle, and it's at this point that I should mention how hard this fight actually is. Nothing on her team really seems that scary until you look at her final Pokemon. Just a level 58 Prime Kyogre. The plan going into the fight was to use my beefy ass boy to try and overpower it, but the plan quickly derailed when I realized how much its Origin Pulse attack actually dealt. I decided that it would be better to stall it with Protect and Potions until it ran out of Origin Pulse PP, and eventually I whittled its health down with Body Slam. To say Tubba Bubba carried this fight would be a massive understatement. The second Audrey is a massive run killer exclusively due to Kyogre, and you need a good plan to deal with it, otherwise you're probably gonna wipe. Stepdaddy enters the scene with the little albino boy, all grown up now with his little tendrils and shit. I watch as the poor mother gets robbed of her little rock by her own flesh and blood. I'm transported back to Sonata and continue my quest to get all the gym badges. I return to Kepler and get a small team together to fight the traitor. I make my way through the gym, and it really starts to show that I don't have much of a plan together. Cause I'll just sweep right through this electric and steel type gym with my fire and ground types, right? Right? Well, what followed next was a brutal slaughter entirely caused by a set of keys and a massive supercomputer that could cause earthquakes just by thinking about it. Ego, Tubba Pubba, Chess Penis, and Vulcan were all dead, and I didn't know what to do. Luckily, I had caused enough damage to the supercomputer for Maggie to come in and finish it off with a discharge after triggering Sturdy. What followed next was a carefully planned out stall fest where Maggie single-handedly wiped out the rest of the traitor's team. I had won the battle, but the damage was too great. I had lost some of my greatest team members I could have, and Chess Penis. I threw them into the cemetery and regrouped the team before taking on the next boss. I head under the gym to find a secret workshop where the traitor has been helping the blue-haired perfectionist by creating a suit of armor. After a cringe battle between his new toy and Orion's Reshiram, he steals the poor kid's Pokemon and challenges me to a battle. I had kind of been stressing this battle for a bit, and rightfully so. Tayan has a very balanced team, and an armored Zekrom. I was able to pull it off pretty easily, only losing Magi 2 to his Mega Charizard. I sub out the second dead fish for Zatnap the Rotom, turning it into a washing machine in the lab, and taking a second one to a hiker who gives me a Beldum. I head north to Nazca Town where I am briefly teleported to some room where a Darkrai cultist tells me to stop Persephone or something. Again, wasn't really paying attention to this part. I head into the Safari Zone and catch a totally fast Donphan I name Tusk and pick out a Bulbasaur named Bulba. I catch a Delta Shinx in the Merc Forest and name it Dracula because of its ability that restores health. Upon making it to Hecate Town, I came to the realization that I would need to fight the leader of the Infertile cult.
Upon making it to Hecate Town, I came to the realization that I would need to fight the leader of the Infernal Cult next. Totally not the friendly and passive librarian that we saw earlier. I needed strength to get through the fiery caverns, and the only Pokemon that had a related move was Tusk with Giga Impact. I started to plow through the cultists, but then this happened. Should be able to... Oh, it outspeeds, and it just killed. Wait, what? Oh my god, dude. Are you serious? I lost Tusk because a fucking camera outsped. I was really shaken up about this. I needed Tusk to finish the puzzle and didn't know if it would reset if I left, so I decided to keep going into Challenge Zenith. I had a plan somewhere, but to be honest, I didn't know if I was even going to come close to winning. A 5-on-5 match in theory sounds pretty fair, but when his Excadrill outsped and killed Vibe Check, I knew there was no way I could win cleanly. After some careful switches where a few of my soldiers had to be sacked, and the realization that Rotom actually does outspeed Chandelure, you fucking moron! It was just my singular Rotom versus his Mega Macargo. What I didn't realize was that his Macargo had an ability that not only makes water type moves ineffective, it also chipped an eighth of the health of any water types out on the field. There was nothing I could do against it, so I lost my first attempt. Holy! Okay. And burn. Yeah, we're done.
Alright. That's attempt 1, boys. That's attempt 1.
I came a long way. A lot farther than I initially thought, but I was left disappointed in myself. I had made several mistakes that led up to this defeat. From losing my mulligan, to Tubba Bubba, to Magi 2, to Tusk right before the boss. The deaths added up, and I was really starting to feel that after the fight with the traitor. I assessed what I could have done better before closing the game and deleting the save file. My first Pokemon Nuzlocke attempt had been a failure, but that was okay. At the moment, I'm taking a short break mainly to make this video, but in the future I might keep trying. With college and all, I don't know how frequently I can keep trying these attempts, but I promise I can make something work. I hope you guys enjoyed this different type of video. It was really fun trying this different type of challenge for a game I regard as one of my favorites. Any feedback for this video would be greatly appreciated, both gameplay wise and editing and all. I would love to hear what you all think. Anyways, that's about it for me, so I'm about to head out. I'll see you guys later.